were a beautiful family, a striking raven-haired couple with their delightful little girl. In 1995, mother and daughter left home for a shopping trip and were never seen again. The search for answers would lead investigators into a world of evil, fantasy, and perversion. A small town just an hour's drive from Philadelphia. People who live in Limerick say it's a wonderful place to raise a family. Jimmy and Lisa Mandarak lived here with their 19-month-old daughter, Devon. Since Jimmy and Lisa both worked full-time, weekends were an important time to relax, have fun, and enjoy one another. On a Sunday afternoon in September of 1995, Lisa told her husband that she and Devon were going shopping. She said she wouldn't be gone long. Jimmy stayed home watching football. By dinner time, Lisa and the baby hadn't come home.
Jimmy said that his wife had handed him the diaper bag and said, "I'll be right back." In other words, I won't be long enough to need a diaper. When she wasn't back that fast, he started panicking, and no one else could understand why he was panicking.
Well, I thought he was overreacting. When we hung up, I realized it was a Sunday. And I thought, where could she have possibly went being this late? So I did call the police.
Family and friends told the police that the Mandaraks were happily married. To see if Lisa may have run off with the baby, police checked to see if her luggage or toiletries were missing, but they were not. Jimmy told police his wife said she was going to a shopping center about 10 miles from their home. When police arrived, they found Lisa's car in the parking lot. There were no signs of foul play. Lisa and Devon were nowhere in sight. The grocery store was the only one still open, and family members searched through the entire store.
And I said to the girl, "Please page Lisa Mandarak." And when she didn't come, I knew right away something was wrong. I went out and I said to my sister, "She's not in there."
Later that afternoon, police received some terrible news. Some hikers in nearby Valley Forge National Park found the body of a baby girl.
They were walking along a trail at the base of an embankment. The embankment was approximately 50 yards up to one of the access roads. So the baby's body was between the top of the embankment at the road and the walking trail.
The child appeared to have been tossed from the road above. She was fully clothed, but bruises were clearly visible. An autopsy revealed that Devon had been manually strangled to death. But investigators found no forensic evidence on the body, not a single clothing fiber or hair. The news stunned family members and everyone in the little town of Limerick. Detective Richard Pafall stated,
"I have to admit, in this case, I found it very unusual that Jimmy was not able to go in and look at his daughter. And I admit that intensified my suspicion that perhaps Jimmy was involved in Devon's death."
Despite the suspicions, Jimmy Mandarak denied any involvement in his daughter's death or his wife's disappearance. As night fell, police feared they would never find Lisa Mandarak alive. Jimmy Mandarak said he was at home, watching football on the day his daughter was murdered and his wife disappeared.
They were his everything to him. I think that it would have been hard for him to wake up any day and imagine them not being there. You know, when they weren't, it really, literally ripped his heart out.
Jimmy said he gave Devon a cookie and some pretzels before she left with Lisa for the store.
At first, there was some question, naturally, what we could do to verify his story. When we found her car, the cookie and the pretzel rod were in the car. It may not be of any scientific value, but it helps verify the story.
They learned that a local motorcycle gang met that day near the shopping center. and wondered if Lisa and Devin might have had some sort of contact with them. Jimmy's beautiful young wife would have been an easy target.
Lisa was gorgeous, very pretty. She was like Snow White. She had black hair, very fair skin. She was just very pretty.
An intense search for Lisa began in Valley Forge National Park the day after Devin's body was discovered there. Helicopters, bloodhounds, and a cadaver dog combed the 3,500-acre site.
No one should go through a day that my brother went through that day. No one. I couldn't tell you what it was like for him, but I know what it was like to be with him, and it was awful.
At the shopping center, police asked employees and customers if they had seen anything suspicious the day before. No one recalled seeing Devin, Lisa, or any members of the motorcycle gang. There were 2 children's stores at the shopping center. Employees at Annie Says did not recognize Lisa or Devin as customers from the day before, but a shopper at Your Kidz Mine said she remembered seeing them inside that store around 3:30 on Sunday as she was paying for her items.
We were able to track down that transaction off the journal tape in the cash register. In fact, that was the last entry on the cash register journal tape for that day. So we were able to say exactly what time that woman made her purchase and knew that Devin and Lisa were alive in that store.
Your Kidz Mine was owned by Ruth Fairley. Her 22-year-old son Caleb had been working alone in the store that Sunday. Police contacted Caleb Fairley by telephone. He told them he hadn't seen anyone resembling Lisa or Devin in the store, but he agreed to meet with detectives to look at photographs. When he arrived at police headquarters, investigators noticed that he was wearing makeup.
I went and got a wet paper towel and asked him if he would wipe the makeup off his face. It literally made my hair stand on end because you could see that they were perfect scratches from fingernails coming across his face.
Fairley told police he had been out mosh dancing the night before and that someone had accidentally scratched him. Mosh dancing was a popular fad at the time, which involved a crowd of dancers slamming into one another. Investigators discovered that Fairley had told friends something different.
He initially said, oh, I had to break up a fight at work. You know, I took the trash out the back and there was a fight in the alley, I had to break it up. You know, there were 3 guys on one, I had to break it up. You know, it was very, I'm like, oh, well, you know, that's kind of a chivalrous, nice thing to do, you know, helping somebody out that's in trouble.
A background check revealed that Caleb Fairley was a former high school choir boy with no past history of criminal violence. But in 1992, he had been accused of sexual harassment.
There was a female jogging along the road where Caleb pulled up next to her and then made lewd remarks to her as to some things that he would like to do to her.
Friends described Fairley as peculiar. He lived with his parents, was a loner, and was fascinated with vampires.
This is a very scary guy. We ultimately served a search warrant on his home, and we found out that he was a real pervert, had all kinds of strange sexual devices and various other perverted stuff.
He spent most of his time reading pornography and playing fantasy games like Dungeons and Dragons. Here is an interview from Caleb Fairley's former friend.
The reason we game is because we want to be heroic. Not everyone can be a fireman or policeman. Not everyone can be a soldier. Not everyone can be Indiana Jones. So for the rest of us, we read books, we play games, we daydream.
Friends say Fairley would often dress up as a vampire in order to live out a fantasy depicted on one of his t-shirts. A vampire ravishing a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Lisa Mandarak.
He had a thing for women of a certain appearance. In a number of the game products, that particular appearance is idealized. It had to do with very pale skin, people were very thin, quite often they'd have darker hair. The fact that that particular physical stereotype was in vogue, it would show up in all the artwork.
Fairley denied any involvement in Devon's murder and Lisa's disappearance. Was it possible that Fairley had more to hide than scratches? There were no signs of a struggle inside the clothing store, where Lisa Mandarak was last seen. But detectives did find some clues. A shopper said she saw someone vacuuming the store late Sunday afternoon, just minutes before it closed. And a local news crew reported seeing the same thing early the next morning. In the store's vacuum cleaner, police found several strands of long brunette hair which had been forcibly removed. Without a body, it was impossible to tell whether it was Lisa's. To analyze the carpet, investigators used an ultraviolet light which causes certain substances like bodily fluids to fluoresce. In the back of the store, the ultraviolet light revealed several suspicious stains. The stains were saliva, which tests showed was from little Devin Mandarak, and there were other stains nearby, which turned out to be semen. A blood sample taken from Caleb Fairley matched the semen found on the carpet of the store. Although this was certainly an unusual piece of evidence to find in a clothing store, it wasn't proof of a sexual crime, and police could find no physical evidence that Lisa Mandarak had been inside the store.
If we didn't find Lisa, all we would have is a weird guy with scratches on his face who lies a little bit, and you didn't have anything to tie him to the crime. So finding her body was of utmost importance.
Police confronted Fairley with the potentially incriminating evidence found in the store. Then, a shocking revelation. Fairley said he knew where Lisa was, and offered to lead police to her, but only if prosecutors agreed to not seek the death penalty if Lisa was found murdered.
The only mistake that he makes is agreeing to lead us to the body. That turns out to be a mistake, but at the time, given the information that he had, that was the right logical decision for he and his lawyer to make. Turns out they were wrong, but their error was to our benefit.
Prosecutors accepted the deal, and Fairley led police to an industrial area near the store, in an overgrown wooded lot next to the health club Fairley belonged to. Police found Lisa's body in heavy brush. Lisa was naked, except for a black lace top pulled up around her neck. The body was posed in a sexually suggestive position, with her hair covering her face, and Lisa's hands showed signs of trauma. Some of her fingernails were broken, others had been completely ripped off.
She was found in a sexually suggestive way. He's a pervert, that fits. He's the last one to see them alive. He has scratches on his face, and he lies about it. That's enough to arrest him.
The autopsy revealed that Lisa had been manually strangled. Her body was badly bruised, her ribs broken. Tests also showed that Lisa may have been sexually assaulted. Scientists discovered some foreign fibers on Lisa's blouse. They were microscopically similar to the fibers from the shirt Fairley was seen wearing on the day of the crime. The hair found in the store's vacuum cleaner was compared to Lisa's hair and was also found to be microscopically similar. Finally, investigators subjected the biological material found under Lisa's fingernails to a DNA test. The skin under Lisa's fingernails belonged to Caleb Fairley. Caleb Fairley was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder, aggravated assault, theft, and abuse of a corpse. Prosecutors believed that Fairley lived in a fantasy world, and that Lisa Mandarak matched his image of a perfect woman. When Fairley saw Lisa and realized that she and Devon were the only shoppers left in the store, he locked the door. The forensic evidence shows that Fairley attacked Lisa behind some high clothing racks out of street view, but Fairley underestimated Lisa's strength. She fought desperately for her life and that of her daughter, scratching and clawing at Fairley's face. During the struggle, Lisa's ribs were broken and her body badly bruised before she was strangled to death. Afterwards, Fairley strangled the baby. Saliva from the baby leaked onto the carpet, and fibers from Fairley's shirt transferred onto Lisa's blouse. There is evidence that Fairley sexually assaulted her. Fairley washed and vacuumed the carpet that night, and again the next morning. He carried the bodies out the back door. he drove to Valley Forge National Park and dropped Devon's body there. Then he drove to an industrial park, where he elaborately posed Lisa's body. Fairley's cleanup attempts weren't able to hide the forensic evidence of the struggle, and the biological evidence under Lisa's fingernails. Caleb Fairley pled guilty to the charges, but claimed that the murders were not premeditated.
It takes a very long time to strangle somebody to death. You have to cut off the blood flow to the brain for 4 minutes. That's a long time.
Fairley was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. To this day, the Mandarak family is still haunted by the cruel and senseless murders. The saliva, the hair, and the DNA evidence told the story that Lisa and Devin Mandarak could not.
Mm-hmm.